This is episode 197 of the Mixology Talk podcast. And in this episode, we're going to talk to two bartenders, have a great little conversation about glassware, how they source it, what are some of the qualities of good glassware, and just have a really fun conversation around it. Now, I will go ahead and give you a little bit of a warning that my internet went down that day, and I kind of had to scramble a couple of minutes before the interview just to get everything set up. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologize. It's a terrible video. And also the sound might be a little bit off as well. But hopefully you enjoy the podcast, and let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mixology Talk podcast. In this episode, we are going to cover a topic that I'm really passionate about, and I had two bartenders that are really passionate about as well. The first bartender is Christopher Krause. If the name sounds familiar, he actually joined me and was kind of the beginning of this conversation way back. I can't remember which podcast it was, but we talked about beer cocktails. And so thanks for joining me again, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Christopher is the owner president of Portable Libations Consulting. And also we have Adam Stein joining us. Adam Stein is a beverage director for Alley Lounge in Culver City, Los Angeles, who also has a lot of passion around glassware. So thanks for joining us, Adam.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So before we begin, because I know this is going to be a heated debate, or at least some good viewpoints, I'd love to kind of get the base layer, like the foundation of where you guys stand as far as like the role of glassware in bars. Are you more of like a traditionalist, like, a whiskey sour has to go in a sour glass? Or are you more of kind of like a free form kind of challenge? Sorry, my dog is right here. Kind of challenge boundaries. And are you cool with like putting a martini in like an old cleaned out Campbell's soup can? Like, where do you guys fall? Christopher, let's go with you first, man.
I mean, there's a middle ground. I like to be experimental for sure. I like to give people something to talk about. I'm big on people not getting the glassware they expect. So I'm not a big fan of the martini glass, period. Actually, we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But I like when I run my seasonal cocktails or when I run my weekly special cocktails, I like going thrift shopping. I like going and finding vintage stuff, and sometimes finding a glass that really only serves that single cocktail, because when you're getting them at that kind of price, you don't really have to worry about being able to order replacements all the time, having an incoming stock. So I like to push boundaries with it, and I think what it all comes down to at the end of the day with me is making cocktails that photograph well. Because those end up on your Instagram, and that ends up being free advertising. And it gives you a better perceived value of the cocktail that's in front of you when it comes in a glass that you're not expecting, and something that might have a little bit more going for it than a standard martini glass, rocks glass.
Fantastic. Being a photographer and a storyteller yourself, that fits. That totally fits. And Adam, just to get a base layer, man, where are you at? What do you think about glassware and how it rolls with cocktails?
I definitely agree with Chris in that middle ground kind of idea, but a little bit more on the traditional side. Does a sour have to come in a piece of stemware? No, definitely not. And so I do like to change certain things up just to be more original, but an old fashioned is probably going to be put in a double rocks glass or a bucket glass or whatever you want to describe it as in my bar for the most part. Like I said, a little bit more on the traditional side.
Got it. Okay. Well, this will definitely, I had no idea before I asked the question. So I feel like this is going to be a really good conversation. I kind of fall in the middle. I feel like there's also kind of service glass you just have to have as a staple. And I've never had access to have a budget for like really interesting glassware. So I kind of fall more in the traditionalist camp as well. But having the blog over the last couple of years has definitely kind of pushed me outside those boundaries. So I think we're all kind of somewhere in the middle, which is going to be fun. So that being said, Adam, why don't you tell me what are some just concrete pieces of glass that you have to have in any bar program?
Of course. So I also despise the martini glass. It's just, James Bond can drive his Aston Martin and beat up 6 bad guys and make love to a beautiful woman without spilling a single drop out of his martini glass. But I can't walk 6 feet without spilling stuff out of that. And so I absolutely despise that. But, you definitely need your stemware, your non-stemware. So, your coupe glass, you could probably build an entire program around coupe glass, rocks glass or double rocks or bucket. I mean, so much glassware has so many different names. A Collins glass and a wine glass, and you could probably have most of a bar program down just to those 2 pieces of glassware.
Perfect. Anything you want to add in there, Chris?
No, I'm in full agreement on the martini glass thing, and not only with the spillage, but martini glasses I've had constant issues with fill lines on. So if you go buy 10 to 12 ounce martini glasses to save your servers or save your cocktail servers the hazard of spilling it all over the place on the way to the table, then your fill line falls below, and guests that are not really indoctrinated with the bar world don't understand when something comes to them and it's not full all the way to the top. They think that even though it's a bigger glass, they don't really rationalize that. They just think, hey, this isn't full. I didn't get my entire drink. So I haven't found a good way around martini glasses other than replacing martini glasses with coupes. So like my bare bones, I need to run a bar. 2 wine glasses. I want a curved red wine and a high acid white. The high acid white ends up also being my spritz glasses and everything else. I like coupe and Nick and Nora's because that gives me some volume control on a couple different cocktails. I need a Collins / highball, and that serves dual purpose between those. And then I usually like having 1 or 2 crazy glasses that I can throw stuff in. And those are the ones that I usually get secondhand.
Yeah, I think that's kind of everything that I have as well. I think, bucket, old fashioned, whatever you want to call it. Just a gin and tonic bucket that you can put a bunch of different cocktails in there, highballs,
right.
Wine, definitely 2, if you can afford 2 or have the room for 2. A white and a red would be ideal. And I think, a handful of hot glasses, because in California, we don't serve a ton of like toddies and stuff like that, but it's, if you have it, you might as well have
Right.
the one piece. But
yeah,
I think as far as like service, those are kind of the biggies that I can see.
The only thing I might add to that would be, depending on your concept, it might pay to have a snifter / Glencairn, and that's
Right.
if you're doing neat pours.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And potentially a interesting water glass that you can kind of double up into your cocktail program as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. I think that's kind of what covered everything on that one. And then when you're outfitting a bar, what are some of the considerations you guys have when you're choosing glassware, volumes of glasses, like how many pieces do you guys get in each kind of SKU, I guess? Chris, why don't you start with that?
So the first thing I look at when I'm building a bar program and I'm deciding on glassware is the glassware is generally built around what the capabilities of the bar. What kind of storage space do I have? Do I have hanging racks? Do I have mat space? Because I don't like using stackable glasses if I don't have to, but sometimes you don't have a choice in the matter. Sometimes I've got 3 feet by 3 feet of glass storage and that's it. So I've got to find a way to make that work. That having been said, it's easy to install hanging racks. So that's where you start moving to stemware for a lot of stuff. And you can move to stemware that can also serve double duty. So I brought this example. This is something I grabbed 20 of these from a Goodwill at $1 a piece. They're super heavy, they're crystal, and they've got a wide enough bucket in the bottom that you can actually, I've got a shorter version of these too. You can do rocks pours in these. You can do cocktails that would normally not be in stemware because it's got a very short choked down stem and you can hold it not by the stem and it's comfortable to hold that way. So that's one of the things that I'd use as a workaround for that. And other than that, I like doing double duty for everything. So my Collins glasses serve as my highball glasses, serve as my water glasses. Mm-hmm. My red wine glasses and white wine glasses serve double duty with different cocktails. So it really comes down to how much space you have, what your operating budget looks like, and what kind of volume you're pushing out, which is what kind of volume of glassware do you need to buy. And at the end of the day, it falls down to budget and space. Those are the 2 non-negotiables. And then you can start playing once you get those things established.
Yeah. And then Adam, do you have any other kind of considerations from your end as well?
Spacing definitely is the biggest issue. I don't like using stackable glasses, but I do have my glassware, like my buckets are stacked back here. Same with, my julep / mule cups and stuff like that. Just again, space is always an issue. But yeah, I mean, it's a great idea to have glasses pull double duty. One glass has a multitude of uses, and just not, I mean, if I had all the space in the universe, I would love to just have like one glass for each drink, but it's not that possible.
Yeah, exactly. Not without a large budget, like Christopher talked about, and a ton of space. And honestly, a lot of training, because then you have to train every bartender on like what cocktail goes in which glass and what happens when you run out and like where do you serve next. And so there's a ton of training that has to go into that as well. But yeah, I agree. The more options you have available, the more fun it is, but it also can be a lot more of a challenge too. So one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, and this is kind of bringing up some PTSD for me personally, of glassware, is when you consider glassware, and especially on opening a bar, one of the things I've run into the past is we've never had enough glassware, especially in that first couple months where you're just getting hammered. You just open, you're the hottest place in town, and you're just running out of glassware left and right. So I'm kind of curious. I think we kind of hit on it a little bit with the double duty aspect of glassware, but when you run out of certain glasses, certain glasses, where do you kind of go from there? Let's start like with the old fashioned. Like you have an old fashioned bucket glass, you run out of all that glassware. Where do you pull from next? Oh, maybe I'll ask Adam. Sorry.
I mean, in situations like that, I would switch to the Nick and Nora or the coupe glass. If I had those available. What piece of glassware do I have the most of behind my bar? It is the bucket glass, because it is the most universal. I'll put a sour in a bucket glass. I think it looks really great with the big ice cube sometimes, and that foam layer on top. Two-touch cocktails, vodka sodas, gin and tonics, definitely I'll put in a bucket glass unless somebody specifically requests a highball. And then, yeah, of course, old fashioned. So luckily, I mean, do I ever run out of glassware? My bar back's number one job is go around, pick up the glassware, wash that stuff. I want, like, the second it's washed, bring it out, put it back behind me. And like, that's their number one job. But when I do run out, if it's a stirred cocktail, then it'll probably go up in a coupe glass or a Nick and Nora, which is my absolute favorite piece of glassware. Or if I have again, the gin and tonic or vodka soda and I'm out of those bucket glasses, I will put it in a highball or a Collins glass. Just so I guess if it's an iced cocktail, serve it in a tall glass. And then if it's a stirred cocktail or a neat cocktail, put it in a piece of stemware.
Cool. Yeah. How about you, Chris? Anything else?
So in a pinch, I'm always willing to get the product out to the guest. That's the number one thing. That having been said, I don't like that. That's like one of my big pet peeves is when stuff starts going out, because consistency is everything for me behind the bar. So I take all the steps that I can to avoid that happening in the first place. So there is a couple things that go into that. The first is any of our run-of-the-mill glassware that we're ordering from a supplier, I will never have less than 3 cases in backup. If we break enough that we only have 2 cases in backup, I buy another case. So if we get slammed and I know that I have 3 cases of clean glassware wrapped and ready to go and back. The second thing is I like to, when space and budget allows for it, I like to have an automatic dishwasher behind the bar. It sanitizes things, it's a fire and forget kind of thing that doesn't require a lot of work. I also like to have an emergency backup 3 station if I can. Because that gives you the ability to, I'm not going to start the dishwasher and wait 2 minutes for this drink to sell because we're waiting on glassware. Run a glass through real quick, get my bar back to give me, hey, go bust up 5 of these. I want these ready to go in 45 seconds. And you can do that if you have a 3 station waiting for you. But that's, again, only if space allows for that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the other questions I want to ask you as well is how many pieces of glassware or what types of glassware do you guys typically store in fridges or freezers for your cocktail programs?
Chris, you can go first.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
No, so I actually like to avoid that when at all possible. Okay. It depends on your concept. It depends on how long people are willing to wait for cocktails. Because if I want a glass chilled, I like to chill it by hand. And you get less glassware breakage like that. Because if you start freezing glasses, no matter how careful you are, eventually you're going to have glasses break in the bottom of your cooler. And now you've got a project in front of you where you have to buy new glasses because some stuff froze to the ground and it broke when you were trying to get it out. Now you've got to thaw out your deep freezer, which is also where I'm keeping my 2x2 ice cubes. It's also where I'm keeping a lot of my spirits. So now it's the middle of Saturday night and I've got broken glass in the middle of everything else. So unless you have a standalone freezer for that, I don't like to do it because it only takes 30 seconds to stir down a glass and chill it. And it's because glassware is all about perception. Another thing that's all about perception is people watching you work. And when they see you hand chilling their glass, it again adds to the perceived value of that cocktail before they get it.
Yeah. And anything for you, Adam, to add to that?
No, I actually, so I do put a few bucket glasses in my fridge or in my cooler. Just, sometimes like an old fashioned, or especially like on a hot California day, it's really nice to have that cold drink in your hand. But for the most part, again, I agree with Chris. It's not something that I do very often because it does like to break. And I have cut myself more times than I can count just on broken glassware. And so when I can minimize breaking glassware at any point, I do my best to do that.
Yeah, no, I think we've all learned that lesson the hard way. I remember I was training a brand new bartender and I was pulling out a stack of pint glasses and putting them in the fridge. And I was in a hurry and the bottom one broke on me and it just went straight down my hand. I was like, all right, I'm going to the hospital. I'll see you guys later. So yeah, I think that's a very valuable lesson to learn. And yeah, definitely. It only happens on the busiest nights, right?
Of course.
Oh, all the time. It's never going to happen on a Monday.
Yeah.
No, never.
That's also when glassware likes to break in your ice well or something like that. And yeah, just Saturday nights. That's the only time that ever happens, or Friday nights.
Right. So I want to ask you guys one other question. Like when we're around glassware this much, weird stuff happens and I can't explain it. Like random glass, like beer glasses shattering in your hand and stuff like that. Do you guys have any kind of experience with like a weird glass issue that you've had in the past?
You can take this one first, Adam, if you want.
Awesome. Yes. Well, stemware. I mean, on a busy night, I don't know what it is, but stemware loves to come apart. It's just, yeah. And I don't know why. I don't feel like I'm putting any extra pressure or anything like that. And then beer glasses, of course. I did used to work at a beach bar when I lived in Florida. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we would stack beer glasses in the cooler. And I had one experience where it just shattered in my hands, just like you were describing. And it's like, I mean, I can't go to the hospital right now. We still got a full busy bar that I'm running. So yeah, I don't know what it is. Just glassware. It's the laws of the universe. It's the laws of the universe when it comes to working in the restaurant industry. Whenever you're the weakest or whatever your weakest point is, that's where you're going to get hammered. Did you juice a little less lime juice today because you thought that it wasn't going to be that busy? Guess what? Everything's going to be a lime juice cocktail. Do you only have one piece of one coupe glass left and it's your favorite glassware? That's definitely going to break. There's no way around that. So yeah, it's just, I mean, any particular weird story, just stuff likes to break at the most inopportune time. And then, I keep some backup, but not nearly as much as Chris does. And that's actually something I'm probably going to steal and keep a lot more backup ready to go.
That was gold, man. I'm not going to lie. That was a good tip, just to have clean, wrapped, ready to roll in the back if you can afford it and have the room. That's good stuff right there, man.
And keeping a par level of exactly how much you want to have. Brilliant. Keep par levels for everything else. Why do I not have a par level for my glass?
It's because I'm obsessive compulsive about it. So the other thing with stemware, and this actually took me a while to get the hang of, is I have a bad habit, especially when I started, because it's in a stem for a reason. You don't want your hand heating up the cocktail before it even goes out of your well.
Right.
So I had this 2-finger grip and I was just popping glasses down on the service well day after day after day. And every time that I had a stem break on me, it's because I had this 2-finger grip on the bottom plate. So eventually I kind of forced myself to sort of grasp the stem with more than 2 fingers, because you can't slam it down that way. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that comes from the quality of the glassware too. Or is your glassware tempered? How thick is it? Because I've worked at places that have 6-inch long pencil thin stems. Right. I looked at the guys when I went in, I'm like, how many of these do you guys go through a week? There's no way. And they're like, oh, we never break. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Your first shift and you watch 10 of them get broken in the service. Well, I'm like, it's not that you never break them. It's that you don't see them breaking because you're in the office. So yeah, it's a mix between quality and technique. And when you're in a hurry, I mean, you can do everything right. It's still going to break on you.
Yeah.
You're just trying to mitigate those numbers as much as possible.
Yeah, and I remember one time on a busy Friday night, once again, I'm polishing out a red wine glass, and I'm holding it by the base or the bottom. You have the stem and the bowl, and so I'm polishing the inside of the bowl, and I think I just torqued it too much. I just applied a little too much pressure, and that thing snapped right in my hand and turned right into a melon baller. And I was like, all right, once again, here I go. I don't have a lot of luck with glassware, I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I had the same thing. So I've got these big baseball mitts for hands.
Right.
They're just fat for no reason. And I was cleaning out one of our URI pitchers, which are not cheap. And I put my hand in, I was wiping it out, and I just flexed my hand for a second to grab the cloth, and the entire thing exploded around my hand. And that was 5 stitches and $100 pitcher.
Yeah.
So no matter how careful you are, how good you are, you're going to break glasses. Like if anybody tells you they don't break glasses, they're lying to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any favorite manufacturers of glassware? Adam, you want to start this one?
I recently fell in love with Barfly products. Beluga vodka was very cool to me recently and hooked me up with all of these julep glasses for a cocktail that I have on my new summer menu. And I mean, I'll source glassware from really anywhere. I do like to do the whole thrift store glassware sourcing. My biggest issue is just like, I don't like to have just 1 or 2 pieces in my bar, because then it either never goes out, or you care about it a lot and it does go out and it doesn't come back, or breaks or whatever. So, I mean, what's my favorite glassware? Honestly, just if it's a good price and it's a good quality, like I'm not, breaking it constantly or something like that, I'm pretty open to anything.
Yeah. How about you, Chris? Any favorite producers?
So I do like Rydell's stuff a lot. And it again depends on your budget too,
Right.
Because a lot of the stuff runs a little bit higher, and you generally get what you pay for, but not every bar can afford cases that are running you $50 a case. So I've got a few tricks about the thrift store thing, because those are my favorite glasses. I just went and picked up this one last week, and it does help that I'm in Chicago, because there's a lot of thrift stores and they're huge. Went to Goodwill, I got I think 20 of these, $1 a piece.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So we're at a good time for that as far as grabbing glassware from thrift stores goes, because the generation before us bought a lot of fine china, a lot of crystalware, and never used it. All they did was put it up in their china cabinets. And our generation doesn't really do that. But
Right.
As these people, I mean, rest in peace, as their stuff ends up in thrift stores, it's absolutely clean, and it generally comes in sets when I do find it. But the trick is, I'll take a day, and I'm not just going to go to a thrift store. I'm going to go to 6 or 7 thrift stores. And these glasses specifically, I don't know if your guys' experiences are the same. I have seen these at 7 different thrift stores in sets of 8. So these were probably super popular in the 50s. And now, as those people are moving, they're downsizing, they're just going to thrift stores. And our generation we don't have the expendable income to buy plates and glassware just to sit there and look pretty. So these things are kind of just sitting unloved and uncared for on Goodwill shelves. But I've actually been at a place where I had who worked for me 2 days a week, and his job was, take this 16-ounce bottle. I want 10, 12-ounce glasses. The 16-ounce bottle is marked with ounces. So walk into this Goodwill, pour water into it, pour it back in this thing that I gave you. As long as there's 4 ounces left, send me a picture of it. And if there's more than 6 pieces, I'll tell you to buy it. And our glassware would sometimes change from week to week, but I knew that my fluid measurements were good, and I'd give them general guidelines. I want a long stem, I want a short stem, I want crystal etching, I want it diamond etched. And we would just have rotating glassware, but that actually played into our advantage, because it looks like a different drink every time you change the glassware. And people come in and now they're reposting stuff that they've already posted to social media. So it ends up being free advertisement. You're paying $1 a glass, and this stuff is heavy. Like, this stuff is actually like quality product. If you drop this, you might have some floor repairs in your near future.
Well, I definitely want to talk about the thrift store. in a second here, because I think getting your guys' opinion on what is a quality piece of glass. I know, Chris, you've already touched on a couple pieces, or a couple things that you identify as a quality piece of glass. But I think one of the ones manufacturers that I fell in love with was Schatzwiesel, their titanium series. I don't know if that's how they call it now, but it's basically a titanium reinforced glass. They launched them with wine, and I'm not sure if they've gone through the whole series yet. But I remember the marketing person, the salesperson saying, you could actually drop this on the ground and it would bounce. And I'm like, yeah, right. So I grabbed it, I dropped it on the concrete floor, and the thing bounced. And I could not believe it. And it was, to your point, Chris, a lot more expensive, but it paid for itself in durability. So our glassware consumption went down considerably after we kind of went through that line. But yeah, I think I have very similar viewpoints, and I think Rona was another kind of just commodity glassware that I used a lot, but that was many, many, many years ago. So I'm not sure if they're kind of on the same par or if they're just kind of like the Libby of barware these days.
Right, which I mean, and Libby has its place. There's those budget manufacturers. There's a lot of bars and restaurants that can't run without them. Like it's all just got to fit your concept. It's about what your funds are and what you're serving. Because sometimes, I mean, if I'm working at a place where you're charging $7 a cocktail, it doesn't need to come in something like that. And honestly, it might be a little off-putting when it does. So rule number one is serve your demographic. You got to play to the crowd. But yeah, after that, I like something that I know isn't going to go out of stock. So as much as I do like using boutique companies, sometimes if it's something that I know that I'm going to be running this glass for years to come, I want to get a bigger company that I know has some stability, because I'm obsessive about just consistency over, a long period.
Right.
So for my shorter stuff, I'll pick from boutique manufacturers, but for my everyday, these are my bread and beans kind of glassware. I like to go with the bigger companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I kind of want to dive into the thrift store concept and the idea of using thrift store in a bar, because I think this is where you all have some really strong opinions on. So Adam, first of all, do you use thrift store glassware in your bar program or even at home?
Yes, at home, not in my bar program. Only because, again, sometimes I can find like a large quantity of a specific glassware, and then yeah, I'm down for that. But I like my glassware to be the same. There's a cocktail lounge that I went to a while back before everything happened, and their entire stock of glassware is from the thrift store, and so they serve drinks based on how many people are getting that specific drink. It's like if there's 6 people in a party getting this same drink or something like that, then it's like, okay, what do I have 6 of? And my obsessive compulsive nature, I can't, I want it to be universal. I want it to come the same way. I want that drink to go out looking the same way, no matter who's bartending or no matter who it's going to. I like that consistency. But for my home bar, or even for some of my tools and stuff, I love sourcing old milk bottles for Yaris and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. And then also when you can have a fun story behind something that adds to the flair of what we're doing. I am a little particular about the type of glassware that I like behind my bar. I saw Chris was showing us the crystallized glassware. And finally, we can have a nice, a little conflict in this podcast. I don't like crystallized glassware. I like my glassware to be smooth, just really basic. And then the cocktail itself, be where I've used crystallized glassware before. I'm not knocking it. Sometimes you don't see the entire drink inside of it, and so again, I like my glassware to be really smooth, and that's all I have behind the bar here is just smooth glassware. And again, a lot of thrift store stuff isn't that smooth glassware, but at home I have non-smooth glassware. I promise, I have crystallized glassware at home.
Well, and this is the problem I have with crystallized glassware, and I'm just going to go ahead and own it, and you guys can totally berate me, and I'm totally cool with it. It looks like an old person drink. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there, right? It looks like something my grandma would drink and put her pinky up and just go to town. And I haven't been able to kind of weave that into a concept. I see the beauty in it, and I think it's a much higher quality glassware. I just feel like it's kind of gives a signal of old person. So Chris, I'm looking forward to your rebuttal on this.
Okay, so rebuttal part one. So when I am looking for etched glassware, I do actually agree to a point where if it is etched from stem to top, from the stem to the lip, it looks very old. So most of the glassware that all of the glassware that I have here, I'll get it where it's etched on the bottom and the top is always smooth. And the second thing is when I pay attention to what drinks I put in them. So when I'm doing old style cocktails, I like to have a little bit of variance where I'll put a old looking drink in a new looking glass, and I'll put my new looking drinks. I love running tiki drinks in stuff like this because it's not what you expect. So you run something that's got really poppy color. I won't run stuff that's kind of drab in these. It's going to be a cocktail that's got enough color and got enough garnish to kind of escape the glass. So I definitely don't use crystal etch stuff for everything. It's for very specific cocktails because also, as he was saying, like if you can only find 6 glasses, it's not going to be something that's on my cocktail menu year round. It'll be either a brief seasonal thing. Like guess what? Gooseberries are in this week. We're doing a gooseberry cocktail. It's going to be bright orange. We're going to have a huge mint sprig on top. If you run something like that, it'll actually kind of draw the eye away from like that cool crystal etching. And then you won't even like realize it until you've actually got the glass in your hand. And you're like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. But the stuff that I run my day-to-days on is I like very straight lines, very smooth glassware, and very heavy bottomed. That's usually what I go with for my bread and butter. This stuff is I want to get crazy and run something. I want to run a French 75 in something like this because it's just the unexpected. And when I do the thrift shopping for it, unless I can find 12, I'm not going to run it. So that's why I like to get that guy whose job it is, go find me 12 of these. And 9 times out of 10, they can do it. But yeah, if I don't feel like I have enough stock, I won't run it. And I mean, even my pictures, I'm actually backwards. I prefer smooth for my pictures too. There's no etching on this, which is where most people do have their etching. So I just like to reverse. I like to subvert expectations with the glassware. So I do get what you guys are saying, where especially if you're checkered top to bottom, it looks pretty old. So I like crystal with smoked stuff too, because those I do want to look old. I want those to have a very mid-century kind of feel to them. And that's kind of what pulls you into those.
Interesting. So you're looking for contrast, basically.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're waiting for that moment when somebody goes, that's not what I expected. I'm really interested now.
100%.
Cool. I like that. I like that approach to it as well. And Adam, what when you go to a thrift store and look at personal pieces of glass for your house, what are some of the things that you identify as a good quality piece of glassware that you're willing to say, okay, I'm going to buy this piece?
So I like to buy a lot of stemware for my home bar. Again, like as I was saying earlier, the Nick and Nora is my favorite piece of glassware. And, at first I bought some on Amazon and they're crazy expensive. But then, you go to thrift stores and you find the stuff for a lot cheaper. Chris just brings out his Nick and Nora glass and puts it in the front. I love it. Going back to what Chris said though, a strong, I want a thicker piece of stem. Just because it is something that likes to break really easily, even at your home bar, a sturdy base, a heavy base, but also just things that look really interesting. My home bar is the place where I will have like mix and match glassware. I have individual pieces. And so like, if I'm hanging out with like some friends or my girlfriend or something like that, and I make us some cocktails, like, a lot of times they'll come in different types of glassware. It's just because I thought looked really cool. I think we all have that product that whenever we go out and we see it, it's like, I just need to have that now. Like, that entire mindset of it's coming home with me no matter what. Sometimes I like to go out and spend a little bit more on my glassware. There are some really cool spots here in LA that, they're like Toys R Us for bartenders or Best Buys for bartenders, just really fun toy stores for us. And, I'll spend a little bit more, but when I'm at the thrift store, I'll give it the little tap test to see how it handles. But I'll just buy anything if I really find it that sexy piece of glassware. Absolutely, it's coming home with me no matter what.
Yeah, and how about you, Chris? What are some of the qualities that you see or that you really look for when you're going out shopping for glassware? Obviously, besides quantity and volume.
Right. Well, there's a couple big things that if you're going to go out and get thrift store glassware, just to know to look for. And I think the first one is obviously, as we talked about, is the weight of the glassware. And I'm not sure how well this camera is going to pick this up, but also I say watch for seams on the bottom. This guy's got a seam that runs top to bottom. So the glassware was fused. So it's not one continuous piece. So you've got a fault line that's already built into your glassware. And it might be just as strong as the rest of the glass, but generally if that glass is going to break, that's where it's going to break. So you want to look for stuff with no seams. You want to look for where the thinnest part of the stem is, because that's where your break on the stem is going to be. So these have this really cool stem that's built up to there, and there's a dip ring right there. So that's going to be where this breaks. It's going to be right under the cup if this breaks. So just look and identify where the weakest point of the glass is and say, is this point too weak for me to actually use this? And for home stuff, I wouldn't be that concerned about it. It's not going to go through the same kind of abuse. This is really just if you're trying to bring it into your establishment. Just you want to make sure that it's going to be at least as strong as the stuff that you're getting through your distributors, because it's going to be much harder to replace if something breaks.
Right, absolutely. And I remember we actually ran, I worked at a French restaurant and we did wine samples. So we did flights of wine. And the thing that we used was just, little tiny sherry glasses, Nick and Nora glasses, basically whatever we could find between like 3 and 4 ounces. Everything was mismatched, the whole thing. And it drove me effing crazy the first time I saw it. And I was like, you know what, this is kind of charming. If it's a program, it's a little bit out there and I get it. But we would always just be on the hunt for glassware because people would steal them or, people would break them off quite a bit. And, I think we bought them for like 35 cents each. For that price, it makes a lot more sense on a wine glass, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, shrinkage is a huge thing, especially when you're doing the vintage stuff. One of the bars I worked at, we had this crazy $200 cocktail that was, chartreuse VEP. It was a 23-year-old Scotch. It was this vermouth that was super hard to get a hold of. It was locally sourced honey. Like the build on it was $50. And so I found these gold inlaid glasses that, they were pretty expensive. And I actually required a deposit for the drink. There was not only was the drink $200, there was a $30 deposit to make sure I get the glass back too. Because the more interesting your glassware gets, the harder it is to keep a hold of it. The more you got to keep an eye on it. So usually also when I run these special cocktails that come as vintage glassware, those are bar top only. And not just because of the shrinkage issue, but also it drives business to the bar. This is something you can only get at the bar top. And, your best margins at a restaurant are going to be at the bar top too.
Right. That's really interesting. I never thought about the deposit on glassware and also creating a special program just for the bar. I think that's really smart and it gives you a little bit more control and make it a more kind of a special environment. That's a really, really cool tip. You're just kind of dropping the tips today, man.
It's just all day long. Well, you've got to mess up opening around 9 or 10 bars before you got all these tips built.
Love it. Yeah.
You gotta make all these mistakes and figure it out.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. All right. And Adam, you mentioned that you have a couple toy stores that you like to go to when you're sourcing kind of vintage or antique glassware. What are some places that you like to go to in LA?
Barkeeper is, you're gonna spend a little bit more at Barkeeper, but they have such awesome products all the time. I always recommend to my friends or anybody in the industry, if you're not from LA, when you come out here, check it out. They got a lot of really cool stuff, like 100 different types of bitters. Again, really cool vintage glassware sets. And I do keep some of that stuff for my home bar just because, sometimes you had a weekend where you made a lot of money and that money just burns a hole in your pocket. And it's like, I do need this really special vermouth, or I do need this really, really intense glassware set. And I'll probably use it maybe 5 times because at home, I usually just grab a rocks glass and pour myself a little mezcal or something like that. Right. But, just in case I'm ever hosting, the Queen of England, I'm ready to go.
Chris, do you have any kind of special places you go to for sourcing vintage glass?
It's actually a shortage in Chicago. So for vintage glass, as much as I hate to say it, Goodwill turns out to be the one that I end up going to more. And I hate to say it only because it is at its base, it's a corporation. It's not really a charity like a lot of people thought that it was for the longest time. When I can, I do go to local stuff that donates to nonprofits. Goodwill just ends up being the one that has it the most often. As far as barware stores near me, we've got like one. Chicago, there's this, if you want to open up a barware store anyway, Chicago is the place to do it. We've got like one or two, and they're not huge. And we have such a huge industry here and such a huge craft cocktail program throughout the city that it's this weird, like if I had the capital to do it, I'd open one right now. We've got Northwestern Cutlery in the West Loop, and they do a good job, but they're more kitchen oriented. They've got a small bar section. I'm not even really aware of any, this is a bartender store places in
crazy.
Chicago, and it's a huge gap.
Oh man, it's like
so gold. I usually go online. I do like your guys' products to do kind of a reverse plug here.
Appreciate that.
my shakers I'm super picky with, and once I find a good shaker, I mean, this guy's 15 years old and still, as long as you spend the money once, like don't buy a $5 shaker set that cost me $40 and it's ancient and I love the patina on it.
That's cool.
It gains character as it goes.
Yeah, and so I'm going to pause here real quick, and for anybody listening just on your cell phone or on a podcast, I highly recommend watching this on YouTube for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's a lot of visual elements here we're talking about. Chris is displaying a lot of nice glass. Adam's background is pretty much legendary. I think there's a rhino head behind him, so it's pretty.
There
cool.
is. This is Charlie, actually, Charlie the rhino. Why do we call him Charlie? We just call him Charlie.
It's been inherited. That's perfect.
Yeah, it is.
And the other thing is, I'm not actually at my bar now, which is usually where I film. I mentioned to these guys earlier, my network went completely down. So I'm recording inside my house on my 4-year-old's desk, sitting in a chair that's about 6 inches off the ground. And hold on, I'll give you a quick look. There it is. And my dog's right there too. So it's this is the glorious life of podcasting on the fly. But yeah, definitely there's some cool pieces that Chris has been showing, and definitely recommend going to check out everything on YouTube. So usually it's just audio, so we don't care, but there's so many visual elements. I felt like it would be good to take a break here to acknowledge that. All right, so let's get back into it. Only a couple more questions here, and if there's any other points you guys want to add into this, feel free to jump in at any point. Sure. So hypothetical situation here. So your friend comes up to you and goes, man, I just started getting into craft cocktails. I don't know why you're friends with him, but if you are, then you're a good resource for him. And he says, I'm building out my home bar and I need your help getting glassware. What would you steer him towards? What would you get for him? What would be in that lineup? Would you get like a glassware set from like Amazon or like, a box store? Or would you go more of kind of like a bespoke route and handpick a bunch of stuff from a vintage shop or a thrift store? Chris, let's go with you first.
So that one's tough. So I would sit down with him and really talk to him about him getting into craft cocktails, about what it is that he wants to make, what kind of cocktails speak loudly to him. Mm-hmm. So I'd want to, because, you buy a full home bar's worth of glassware. I'm not going to really get into how much I've spent on the glassware that I own. But it's not a small undertaking. So yeah. I'd start him off with, I'd probably take him out thrift shopping and be like, what speaks to you here? Mm-hmm. What of these looks cool to you? I'd probably show him what I have as like a baseline and be like, hey, is this the stuff that you're kind of into? Are you looking for more clean lines? And then it's less about what I'd steer him into, because I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it right. And it's easy to find a good set of glassware, even if you have to go on Amazon or you're going to a bar products website. But it's hard. It's easy to screw it up too. Like there's a lot of stuff that if you're not knowledgeable on glassware will show up on your Amazon feed. And, the martini glasses with the zigzag stems and the smoked and colored stuff that really sells to people who are trying to get into cocktails, and they get it. And they're like, wow, this looks like a Fridays in 1987. This is awful. Or they'll break the second you pull them out of the box. Like he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So
oh man, absolutely.
Different colored stems than glasses. That's I feel like it's a predatory industry just there to prey on people trying to get into cocktails and sell them crap. So it's more about not what am I going to steer you towards, it's what am I going to steer you away from. And then I'll give them those hints. Like if you do go out, look for seams in your glassware, pick it up. How much does it weigh? You know, make a noise with it. Is it going to chime or is it just going to clack? And kind of explain what the differences between those things are. So I think that your glassware is a great way to express your taste in your own home cocktail bar. So it's less about, hey, this is what you should get. And it's more about, don't you ever touch this product ever.
That's what true friends do, right?
Exactly.
What about you, Adam? What would you do? How would you steer your friend into getting some good glassware for their home bar?
Home bar, yes. I mean, yeah, especially right now, everybody became a home bartender, you know, now having people come back in and hang out, you know, they say, oh, you know, I was a home bartender all through this and the stuff that you do is just so much different. Like, I don't know how you guys do it. It's like, well, that's our job. That's what we do. But like how to like steer somebody towards proper glassware, you know, yeah, like that zigzag stuff or that, you know, the Chili's or TGI Fridays kind of glassware that you see, it's you let them know that like it's not going to age well. You know what, you know, glassware should age well. It should look good from when you get it to when it inevitably breaks. And you know, again, having a multitude of uses for that glassware is a great idea because you know you're probably going to have one piece of stemware at home. You know, you might have a wine glass, you might have a highball glass and a bucket glass, and that's it. You know, and that's really all you need for your home bar. I mean, hell, you probably don't even have all that. So just stuff that like, again, that's why I really like to gravitate towards the really basic looking glassware because it will age really well. It will be the same for the entire time and people, you know, they'll always enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on what they're drinking too, right? Like if they're going more tiki or, you know, you're going to steer them a different direction, obviously tiki mugs and tiki drinks, glassware, or if they're really into mules, obviously you're going to pour them, you know, push them a little bit more towards getting possibly a copper mug set or something like that. So, but yeah, I think it's listening to them and steering them away from what they don't want because nobody likes buying stuff that you're just going to throw away. I have a lot of glassware I have to throw away.
Yeah.
And then do you guys recommend them going kind of deep in their like their counts? Like do you recommend them going like 6 of each or kind of do a more kind of a light touch if it's, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend only get like 2 to 4 pieces? Like what quantities would you advise people to get for that? Adam?
Minimal.
Yeah.
I mean, how often, especially right now, how often do you host people in your home? But beyond that, you know, if I'm hanging out with friends, like at the most, I'm going to have like 3 or 4 people in my, you know, my small Los Angeles 1-bedroom apartment. You know, how many people am I really going to have over? So having just a few pieces of glassware is probably the best. You know, I mean, space at a bar is a premium, but space in your home is probably a premium also. Who's got a lot of cabinet space just to put glassware that you're not really going to use very often?
Yeah.
Or, you know, or you could have a bar cart, you know, but again, like, you know, having a lot of glassware is a nice idea, but it's rarely going to get used. And that's why so much glassware ends up at thrift shops and stuff like that, because it just was never used.
Right. How about you, Chris?
I'm going to agree, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit too. In not only am I going to tell them to buy light, but I'm going to tell them to buy cheap for their first set too, because your taste, as you get deeper and deeper into the cocktail world, your taste will change on what you think is good glassware and what you think isn't. If I looked back at the glasses that I loved when I started bartending, I'd slap myself in the back of the head right now. I used to have this huge thing for snifters and Glencairns. I loved them, and they're the hardest glasses to clean. I don't even think they look good. Honestly, I avoid using Glencairns. I get the science behind it. I get like that it chimney pipes the scent up towards your nose and everything. I understand that. As I get older and as I've done this more, they're fragile, they're hard to clean, and sometimes it's too much too. Like because that's what they're designed for. If you're drinking like 110 proof something, it's that vapor is going to smack you in the nose. Like I prefer personally my bourbon out of the rocks glass, just neat. I think it has a more classic look to it and it's less to play with. And you look goofy when you're drinking out of a Glencairn glass. There's no way to not look goofy and drink out of that. I get what it's for and I'll use it when it's called for, but it's not my favorite anymore. And I'm sure if you ask me another 10 years, it's going to change again.
I like your move, Adam. That was good. He pulled up a Glencairn and started.
I completely agree with. Yes, I completely agree. But they're pretty sometimes, and people like them.
Right? Yeah. No, they have their purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of want to wrap everything up here, and then obviously give you guys some time to chat about any other topics we might have missed here. But Adam, could you tell us about your favorite kind of cocktail and glassware pairing for a cocktail you've created in the past, and kind of what made that unique?
You know what? Honestly, it's definitely the silver julep glass for one of my signature cocktails right now called the Pump Up the Jams. My cocktail menu is entire music themed, very unoriginal, but it's fun. And so it's made with a blackberry and ginger jam. It's kind of like a take on a Moscow Mule, somewhere between a mule and a julep. It's got powdered sugar on top and all that stuff. And I absolutely love these glasses. And I mean, this is a glassware that I have to worry about shrinkage with because it does have a tendency to go missing. You know, I started off with a lot more than I have now. And I mean, you know, that's just part of it. You know, you build that into the price and all that. But I really do love the julep glass. You know, I think, and I love going like, you know, when you think of like a mule or even a julep, you typically think of that copper. So I like having that slight change on it and going with the silver or the chrome. But beyond that, also, you know, big fan of the tiki glass. It's kind of hard to see with how bright it is, but you know, I love the clear tiki glass, and it goes all the way to the top, and then so it's got like a yellow color. It's kind of like a riff on a zombie or a Mai Tai, and then I'll do a little bit of bitters on top to have that layering. It just I think it looks really, really pretty. And I absolutely love tiki. You know, we got so many great tiki spots here in Los Angeles that you try and keep up with everything that everybody else is doing. But between these two, I love it. You know, I love doing tiki cocktails in tiki glasses. I love doing the weird take on the mule or something like that, subverting expectations in that regards. But other than that, staying pretty classic. And then, you know, I mean, as Chris was saying, like, you know, how do I drink my whiskey? I like my whiskey in just a classic bucket glass. I think it's perfect.
Right.
Doesn't, you know, it's perfect. It is the most important piece of glassware in a bar. Yeah,
agreed. How about you, Chris? What's your favorite cocktail glassware pairing that you've done in the past? I'm sure.
So we're going to go a little bit off the rails. Honestly,
I love it. I'm here for it, man.
I was doing this was actually a private bartending event at a country club that I was doing, but it was an 80s themed party. So I had 3 months to come up with this, and I racked my brain. And what I ended up doing is, because they wanted larger format cocktails too. They wanted to have, you know, table cocktails. So I went on eBay and I went to thrift stores, and I found the plastic McDonald's collector's cups from the 80s.
Oh, what?
And I found like 5 of each. So I was running these huge bucket style tiki cocktails out of these 64 to 48 ounce McDonald's collector's cups that came out in the 80s that nobody's doing anything with now. They're like brand new. There was huge mint shrubs on top of them and bruleed pineapples sitting on them. So it was a mixture of like the class of a proper craft cocktail with the cheese and tackiness that embodied the 80s. And I think that was, I mean, terrible. I'd never went to a bar, but it just fit the concept so well that was actually, I think, my favorite glassware choice that I've made for a specific concept.
So McDonald's cup for the win. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that is the pinnacle of glassware in this country is the 1987 McDonald's Transformers cups.
That's fantastic. Oh man, I think the best one that I've seen was actually in a competition. I think it was for Bombay Sapphire most creative bartender. This was many years ago at Tales, and I don't remember who did it, but she built her cocktail in a tea kettle, an Asian tea kettle, Japanese or Chinese tea kettle, with dry ice, and poured it into little tiny teacups, like table side. And I was like, dude, that is like next level. Like you've really,
that's pretty cool.
This whole thing, and like you've engineered this whole experience around this one cocktail. And that was kind of the coolest one that I ever saw. I still don't think it beats the 1987 McDonald's cup, though. I think that's in its own way.
I actually did that competition. That competition gives me PTSD.
Oh,
I was doing a smoked salmon martini with a Campari smoked salmon mousse, and I had capers, and I smelled like salmon for 3 weeks while I was trying to develop that thing. That competition hurt my feelings.
It sounds like it hurt your soul, dude.
I mean, it wasn't bad by the time I was done with it, but I guess if you put enough work into anything, you can make it taste okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I think that's everything that I had. Anything else you guys want to add into around the subject of glassware that you think people should know or understand? Chris, why don't you start?
I would just say be mindful of your concept if you're buying for an establishment. Circling back on what we started off with, the first thing to pay attention to is, what is my budget? How much space do I have? Don't bury yourself too deep. Make sure you've got enough glassware to have backups when shit hits the fan, because shit is attracted to fans, especially on weekends. So be ready for it. And for home, just express yourself with it. It's a great way to play around. And if you find some cheap thrift store stuff, it's not a huge expense, and you can replace it if you need to, or if you fall in love with it, be like, hey, I got all these for $10. And it's, 20 years ago it was $150 worth of glassware. So it's an easy way to go, and just from the business end, be prepared and know what you're getting yourself into. Cool.
And Adam, any thoughts?
I guess like when you're building a bar program and you're choosing glassware for the cocktails in there, be really aware of the clientele, the target demographic of the cocktail that you're serving. Mm-hmm. There is definitely like a masculinity and femininity when it comes to specific types of glassware. And it feels very antiquated, but I have definitely had cocktails returned, not because of anything wrong with the taste, just, can I get this in a man's glass? And it's because I was serving in a Nick and Nora or a coupe. And I mean, again, like it crushes my soul to hear that kind of stuff. But when I do design cocktails more specifically for men, I usually avoid stemware. When I'm designing cocktails for women, a lot more freedom, but I do love to do it up in a coupe glass because it looks so, or a Nick and Nora because it looks so pretty. But yeah, so just be cognizant of that entire thing. And then also, time of year plays a big role. Sometimes I love doing stirred cocktails served up, but when it's 100 degrees outside, a big ice cube is definitely a nice way to enjoy that cocktail and be able to enjoy it for longer than it just getting really, really warm.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
You're nicer than I am. Because when guys start complaining to me that their Nick and Nora glass is not masculine enough, if they make a big enough issue about it, I'll just change the glassware on them. But nothing makes me happier than seeing a 300-pound aggro dude get completely trashed off of like 3 Nick and Noras. Because they will A, stop underestimating the cocktail and the glass at that point. And B, I'm that very sarcastic bartender, depending on the concept that I'm at. I'm like, oh, are you not masculine enough to hold a glass that's not shaped just like a big round thing? Is that affecting you right now? Like, I'll be that guy and I'll call him out. But I'm also much more antagonistic sometimes.
Same.
And you got to know when you can get away with it too. Obviously, you got to know your clientele. Who can I razz? Who can I not?
Right. That's amazing.
I am also not very nice. I will go outside later and start talking all kinds of crap about this one guy. It's like, oh my God, this idiot with this cocktail or with this glassware request. But not yet. I will change the glassware if they make a big enough deal out of it.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, that's kind of everything we have on our end. Chris, you got anything you're working on you want to promote?
Usually it would be my consulting stuff, but right now I'm really busy. So the only thing I'm going to promote is actually, I'm going to take just a couple seconds here as you guys are going back to work right now. Know your value. I just want to leave everybody with that for my professional bartenders out there, for my craft guys. We're in a new situation where right now, restaurant owners, because a lot of us have gotten out of the industry over the pandemic, restaurateurs are starting to realize our worth now, and hold out, know your worth, and get your worth when you guys go back to work. Even though we're coming to the end of the pandemic, it's still a risk, and you've still stayed true to the industry, regardless of the shortcomings of it. So play off of that and don't settle right now.
Great advice. Adam, anything you want to promote? Anything you're working on?
All of my effort, we're just relaunching this bar program here. So all of my effort is being dumped into this. I guess come and have a drink here at the alley. It's really cool, speakeasy style concept. But yeah, just I agree a lot with what Chris was saying. Know your worth. It is a employees market right now when it comes to the bar program that you work at. And so, take the time to be choosy. Don't wait too long, because then, all the good places will be full up. But, if you have reservations, or, you don't like making a certain kind of cocktail, or you don't like catering to a certain clientele, be particular, be choosy. It is very easy to get a bartending job right now. And exactly, know your value when it comes to this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. The rumors and every kind of the stories I'm hearing from people going back to work is like, cherry pick where you want to go, because now's the time. So I couldn't agree with both of you guys more. And Adam, what's your favorite social media platform and handle that people can see your stuff?
So I'm terrible at social media. Admittedly, like that is just, I would say, out of my cocktailing experience, like my weakest part is social media. But I'm on Instagram under Stein Cocktails. It's a little, just my last name, Stein, like a beer Stein. ED Stein Cocktails. It's a fun story. There was a bar manager that I was really, really close with, the guy who taught me pretty much everything I know, and I worked for him for years. And we used to go out a lot and drink Negronis and chase shots of Fernet with our Negronis. And, obviously that kind of leads to a little intoxication. And he used to call it, when I would get drunk drinking these things, I would get Steined. And that became just a common vernacular at the restaurant that I was working at. Just like, oh, I went out last night and I got Stein. It wasn't even me. Just like, great. I love that this is what my last name is synonymous with, but I kind of just leaned into it. And so, everything that I'm doing, like whether it's I'm working on a competition stuff or just have stuff behind the bar that I think is really pretty, I'll throw it on there. So at Stein Cocktails on Instagram.
Cool. And Christopher, what's your favorite social media platform and handle?
It's probably Instagram. So my Instagram's a little bit outdated right now, just because I've been taking a break from mental health from social media for a bit. But now I'm going to take a break from, I said that backwards, but now I'm going and taking a break from my mental health for social media. So I'm going back into it. So it's going to be The Alcohol Chemist, spelled Alcohol Chemist, on Instagram.
Cool. Perfect. And we'll have links to all these in the show notes. But gentlemen, I can't thank you guys enough. I really enjoyed this conversation. And I might have to go back to the thrift store and get some chunky old lady glassware.
Get your Macklemore
on. I'm telling you, that song was playing in my head the whole time we're doing this interview. So once again, guys, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully talk to you guys soon.
All right, for sure.
Sounds great.
So once again, thanks to Christopher Krause and Adam Stein for joining me on this podcast. And like I said, I hope there was some really great information for you next time you go to the thrift store and look at some glassware. And I mentioned this earlier, but I couldn't help but hear Macklemore the entire time I was doing this podcast. But hopefully you enjoyed this. We'll have some more podcasts for you in the future. But until then, hope you guys are having some great cocktails, and cheers.